viaggia da te stesso in te stesso, che da simile viaggio la terra diventa purissimo oro. Se l'albero potesse muoversi e avesse piede e ali, non penerebbe segato, non soffrirebbe ferite d'accetta. Se l'albero potesse muoversi e avesse piedi e ali, non penerebbe segato, non soffrirebbe ferite d'accetta. O uomo, viaggia da te stesso in te stesso, che da simile viaggio la terra diventa purissimo oro. E se il sole non viaggiasse con piedi e ali ogni notte, come potrebbe illuminarsi il mondo all'aurora? E se il sole non viaggiasse con piedi e ali ogni notte, come potrebbe illuminarsi il mondo all'aurora? O uomo, viaggia da te stesso in te stesso, che da simile viaggio la terra diventa purissimo oro. O uomo, viaggia da te stesso in te stesso, che da simile viaggio la terra diventa purissimo oro. E se l'acqua mare non salisse dal mare nel cielo, come avrebbe vita nuova il giardino con piogge e ruscelli? E se l'acqua mare non salisse dal mare nel cielo, come avrebbe vita nuova il giardino con pioggia e ruscelli? O uomo, viaggia da te stesso in te stesso, che da simile viaggio la terra diventa purissimo oro. O uomo, viaggia da te stesso in te stesso, che da simile viaggio la terra diventa purissimo oro. Partì la goccia dalla patria e tornò, trovò la conchiglia e divenne una perla. Partì la goccia dalla patria e tornò, trovò la conchiglia e divenne una perla. O uomo, viaggia da te stesso in te stesso, che da simile viaggio la terra diventa purissimo oro. O uomo, viaggia da te stesso in te stesso, che da simile viaggio la terra diventa purissimo oro. Anche se tu non hai piedi, scegli di viaggiare in te stesso, come in miniera di rubini sii aperto all'influsso dei raggi del sole. Anche se tu non hai piedi, scegli di viaggiare in te stesso, come miniera di rubini sii aperto all'influsso dei raggi del sole. O uomo, viaggia da te stesso in te stesso, che da simile viaggio la terra diventa purissimo oro. O uomo, viaggia da te stesso in te stesso, che da simile viaggio la terra diventa purissimo oro. avanza d'asprezza e acredine verso dolcezza, che da suolo amaro e salato nascon mille specie di frutta. Avanza d'asprezza e acredine verso dolcezza, che da suolo amaro e salato nascon mille specie di frutta. Oh, uomo viaggia da te stesso in te stesso, che da simile viaggio la terra diventa purissimo oro. O uomo viaggia da te stesso in te stesso, che da simile viaggio la terra diventa purissimo oro. So this is another very beautiful song by Maulana Rumi that I especially like. I like very much Rumi's poetry because to me is one of the most special mystical poets of all time. There have been many great mystical poets, but to my taste, to my liking, none is so intriguing and appealing like Rumi's. And in the 80s I bought a book of his poetry and I really fell in love with it. I became obsessed with his poems. So I kept reading and reading them and eventually I decided, well, maybe I apply some melodies to these songs. So I made these poems, so I made them into songs. So all these melodies which by which I sing them, I have applied to them. So this one also. And I'm not very fond of masters of the past, I must say, because I have no connection with them. There are just very few with whom I feel a special connection. One of these is Maulana Rumi, and the other one is St. Francis. Why this? Because of experiences. Of course, this is a personal something. Somebody else might have the same inclination for other people. That's how it is for me. So why St. Francis, for instance? After I had that spiritual awakening in 1972, after a month or two, they gave out this movie which is called Brother Sun and Sister Moon, which was in just made First Vision. So they gave it out in Milan, and I went to see it. Before this, I had no connection with St. Francis, because I had no connection with Catholicism whatsoever, in any way. So I went to see this movie, and when they began projecting the first images of this movie, I began weeping. I never had an experience like that, weeping for what? But it really caught me into my soul, really. So I began weeping like mad, and I couldn't stop up to the end of the movie. So I went on crying like this for 2 hours. And I couldn't stop it, I couldn't control it. And I became so intoxicated. I was so blissful and ecstatic at the end that it was the first time I really felt God's intoxication in that way. So that's why I fell in love with St. Francis. Then in the summer I went to Assisi for, let's say, a pilgrimage. And there I really felt so connected with his presence in that place. And I've been in Assisi so many times, and each time I go there, I catch hold of his presence. I connect, I plug in with his presence, and I feel really blissful and ecstatic over there. Then at some point I decided I go to Konya also. I want to see if what kind of plugging in happens, connection happens with presence of Maulana Rumi. Konya is in Turkey, and is the place where Rumi used to live. He wasn't born in Konya. He was born in Khorasan, which is part in Iran and part in Afghanistan. Now it's in Afghanistan, that part where he was born. So he's understood as belonging to Afghanistan, to Iran, and to Turkey. In Turkey, Maulana Rumi is like St. Francis in Italy. He is really adored and worshipped like a great holy man. We may say he is second only to Muhammad for the Islamic people. So I went to Konya, and there also, just like in Assisi, this incredible presence. At his tomb I was just in ecstasy. I was so blissful and so powerful. So I went in a corner there, because there is always a flow of people passing by. And I sat down in meditation, and it was so special, so blissful. So I was there for 10 days, and I also came in touch with the Sufi orders of Konya when I was there. I was invited to attend one of their meetings. And I was introduced to them as an Italian Sufi. And they said that the one who was the Baba over there, the leader, let's say, or the peer, as they call it, he told me, in order to be a Sufi, you have to be a Muslim. I said, I'm neither of the two. So that's it. But with Rumi I really have a very special connection. And I can say that the way I write poetry, which is not copying the way he writes, which is not the same really, but the way I write is, if you read them with attention, you will see some similarity. So this song says, "O man, travel from yourself within yourself, because by taking such a journey, the earth becomes the purest gold." So, O man, travel from yourself within yourself, because if you take such a journey, you will be transformed from a human being into a god. That's what it means. So this journey that transforms us from human beings into divine beings, it has to happen within ourselves. Then it becomes also another factor. Means, once you're transformed within, also the way you see the world and everything becomes transformed. It's not the same anymore for you. So the earth becomes the purest gold. Even the earth becomes divine. It won't be matter anymore. Even the matter will be energy for you. Because that's what in reality is. We see it as being solid, material, like this body of ours. We see it, we perceive it to be an object, a solid something. But it's not. We know it very well. We are made of atoms, and atoms are made of particles, and particles is light. It's energy. So we are all energy. We are floating in a sea of energy, but we are confined physically in this physical perception, in this body, in this material level. That's why we perceive it as such. But even science is coming very close to it. It has come already to it, that there is nothing but energy. So in order to tune in with this energy, we have to transcend what it is, this physical perception. And how do we do it? We do it by going very deep into meditation, transcending the physical body in a real fact, in a real sense. Something which is inside of us has to withdraw from this physical body and get out of it. Then you are not physical anymore. Your perception of yourself and of reality won't be physical anymore. It will be purely energetic, made of light. You perceive this world, yourself and this world, as beings of light. Then you have realized by yourself that I'm not this body. I live in this body. This body is my dwelling place, is my house for this time in which I live in it. But it's not what I am. I am light, or I am the light. I am divine in nature. We are divine in nature. So this is what we have to realize. And we have to realize it by going within. Within where? In our intestines? No. You have to go within into our atomic condition. And experience ourselves as particles of light, as energy. Then once you have experienced for yourself, nobody can tell you that it's different. Because you know it's the way. So once you experience God, nobody can tell you that God doesn't exist. Because it's your experience. Master Kirpal was asked, how do you know that there exists gods? And he said, how do you know that you have a pain in your belly? If you have a pain in your belly, even if the other person beside you doesn't have it, you have it and you know you have it. So, if you have God inside of you, you have it. And you know it. Even if everybody else doesn't have it. So that's what we come in this world for. That's the purpose of this life. That's the reason why we experience ourselves physically. Because we have to learn how to experience it for ourselves. We start as a material, tiny something, particle, cell. Then we grow into a human being. Then we have to grow into an angel, a God, and the absolute God himself. That's the journey. Maulana Rumi says it in one of his poems. I was born first as a vegetable. No, a stone, he says. Then I became a vegetable. Then I became an insect. Then an animal. Then I became a man. Then I became an angel. But I have to go beyond that also, because I am God himself. So that's what we are. And that's our destiny. If we cooperate, we make it easy for ourselves. If you don't cooperate, then God will give us hard times to understand it. That's how it works in nature. If we understand things in a, let's say, cooperative way, then it's easy. If we don't cooperate, then we are pushed into situation, into suffering. And because of that, we will have to change our direction. So it is wise to cooperate. We make it easy for ourselves. Less suffering, more joy and more bliss. So how do we cooperate? We take up a path and we follow it. We stick to it. We keep doing our spiritual practice and try to raise above body consciousness and experience this kind of condition. This, nobody will do it for us. We have to do it for ourselves. It's our personal job. The Master is there to inspire us, to encourage us, to set an example. But the work, we have to do it ourselves. And that's why we go for retreats with the Master, to renew our commitment, to renew our enthusiasm, to get a boost, an upliftment, so that then we go back to our daily life and we keep doing it. And this is a very good luck to have a situation where you go and something meaningful happens to you. The trend of your thoughts is revolutionized, is changed, and you see reality with a different perspective, renewed and alive again. I've had so many retreats with my gurus. I met Master Kripal in 1973 in April. I spent a month with him. Then he told me, go back to Italy and just meditate. So I went back to Italy and for 2 years I kept meditating. But in the meantime, after 9 months, I went back to India again. Because Master Kripal gave out an invitation for all his Western followers to attend his 80th birthday. So I couldn't miss it, although I was very sick. Because why could I meditate for 2 years? Because I became very sick. I contracted tuberculosis, which was not a condition that made me, let's say, feel lots of pain. No, I felt just very weak. But I had not much pain. I had no pain, actually. Only if I ran or did something too much, then I felt very exhausted. But for what I wanted to do, it was just a perfect condition. So I was for 6 months in a hospital, and I was meditating all day long. I can tell you, for all those 6 months, if I share 5 sentences with the people in my room, it was too much. I didn't speak to anybody. They couldn't understand how this boy can sit there. I was 21 years old. How can this boy sit there the whole day like this, cross-legged? And to tell you how it went, how it was, the room was made in 2 parts. The part where the beds were, and the part which was with a glass wall where there were places to lie down, and you could look out in the garden. So the whole day I was sitting in this kind of thing, and I was meditating there. At the end of these 6 months, once I was sitting there, and 2 girls passed by in the garden, and one told to the other, "Do you see that boy? He's sitting there for 6 months." But in the middle of this was January of 1974, Master gave out this invitation. So I decided, I take my responsibility, I sign, doesn't matter if I die, but I want to go to India. So I signed, I took my responsibility, and they let me go. So I went to India, and I spent 2 weeks with the Master when this Unity of Man conference was going on. And it was such a blissful time that I tell you, even if I had died in that occasion, I wouldn't really mind at all. I'm so happy that I went. It was such an incredible experience. It was just as wonderful as the first time, but even so much more. I was just out of myself the whole time. And I was in such a blissful state. And you know, I saw all these people over there. There were thousands of people. And I saw all of them with their head uncovered and just a flow of light over their head. All of them. Maybe they didn't know it, but that's how I saw them. So, I never regret to have done that. When I came back, I was in a very bad physical condition. So I went back again to the hospital for another 3 months. And eventually I was healed, and I'm still alive here. I've done so much in my life. So it was just a blessing. I understood, because before this happened, before I got sick, I was praying all the time, please, Master, make a situation so that I can meditate full time. Because I couldn't do anything else. I had this so powerful inner pull that I couldn't do anything. So then this came up, and I could. Then I went back home after 6 months, and I stayed home up for another 6 months. So this way, 2 years passed, from springtime 1973 to springtime 1975. Then after this, I went to work in a mental hospital. And it was a very good experience also. So anyway, so it's within ourselves, and it's not just the potential of one person or somebody and others not. It's for everybody. Master Kripa used to say, God is the birthright of each one of us, of each human being. It's inside of all of us, and we can all realize it. It's not for the Easterners or the Westerners or the South and North. It's for all of humankind. Sanji used to say, spirituality, what it is like playing football. Anybody can pick up the ball and score a goal. So it's not for the Indians, it's not for the Americans, it's not for the Europeans, it's for everybody. We can all do it. The others say gurus or enlightened people come only from India or from the East. That's not true. It's for everybody. The other conviction that in the West we have is that Westerners are not for meditation. They don't have this inclination. And Indians, they are very inclined to meditation. That's just the opposite. Indians are not inclined to meditation. They don't like meditating, and they don't meditate. Westerners do meditate. I've been in so many places. Wherever there were Indians and Westerners, the Westerners will sit hours meditating. Indians, they will come into the room, bow down to their divinity, whatever, get out, and that was it. Once I was in Delhi, after being in Rajasthan for a program with Sanji, I had to spend some time in Delhi, like a week like this, because at the time I was studying Ayurveda, so I was involved with that. I had to do something in that field. So in the middle of this week there was a Sunday, so I thought I go to Satsang, because there was a group of Sanji's followers in Delhi, especially Papu's house, the one who was his secretary. So I thought I go for Satsang on Sunday. So I called them and I said, I'm still in Delhi, and Sunday I would like to come for satsang. When does meditation begins? Because usually there is an hour meditation before, and then there is an hour satsang. And so I called them and they said 7 o'clock begins meditation, 8 o'clock begins satsang. So I was in a place in Delhi and I didn't know how long really it would take to reach to this place where satsang was going to happen. And I thought it would take an hour. It was early in the morning also, there was not much traffic, but it took like almost 2 hours because Delhi is such a huge town. And to move from one area to another, it might take hours, really. So I arrived there, it was like 15 to 8 o'clock. And I was very nervous because I never like to reach such a situations late. So I went, they opened, I went into the meditation room, there was nobody. I was with another friend of mine, we were the only 2 persons there. And it was 15 to 8. So I sat down to meditate, and after 15 minutes they started a satsang with a video, and I opened my eyes, there were 100 people. So for meditation nobody came. They only came to listen to satsang. So I thought, what is this? I was in Tiruvannamalai in South India at the ashram of Ramana Maharishi, and there is a room in which he used to spend his time and give darshan, you know. And people go inside there, and it's really like the very holy place, that room in that ashram. So I went there, and first I went into the temple and I said in meditation, I tell you, I went straight into samadhi. I had such a wonderful experience, such a wonderful perception. And then I went into this room after some time. And there were some 20, 30 Westerners sitting peacefully in meditation. And the Indians, what they did, they came here, they bowed down to this bed where he used to sit, get out and go. You will see no Indians sitting in meditation. So, that's how the reality is. Everything is always so crooked that what you think to be one thing is the opposite. It's like what you think to be life is death, and what you think to be death is life. And what you think to be wrong is right, and what you think to be right is wrong. Reality is just topsy-turvy, it's upside down. So if you want to get to it, if you want to perceive it, you have to raise above this body consciousness. Only then you will know what it is, reality and truth. Otherwise, everything is upturned. Like in this society, what seems to be good is bad, and very often what seems to be bad is good. What the mainstreams understand as bad is good, and what the mainstream understands to be good, it is bad. So that's how it is, reality. It's just the other way around. Always, and about all possible fields. Then what he says, if a tree could move and had feet and wings, it would not suffer being sawn or cut with an axe. So movements inside, and very often movement outside also, means keep seeking. Do not get stuck in a lifeless condition. Spirituality, it's a very alive something, and you have to keep it alive, because if you make it die, then you will die yourself spiritually. So we have to keep it alive. How do we keep it alive? By doing our practice, by spending time with the Master, by going on retreats. Master Kirpal used to say, what does the Master do when you go to him? He revolutionizes the thought, your thought pattern. Because when we are on our own, we become convinced of certain things because of our limited vision. So we really get into some kind of idea about our life, reality, what we have to do, what we don't have to do. But when we go to the Master, all these our beliefs and convictions become grinded and upturned. That's how it was for me every time I went to Sanji for a retreat with him. I went with some convictions. I was convinced of what I had to do, what I didn't have to do, what was important for me, what wasn't important. Because we are convinced like this, we have this idea that we have to do what we feel like doing. But what we feel like doing is what our mind feels like doing. It's not what we really are, that feels like doing those things. So when I went there and I began listening to his satsang and looking at him, by and by I felt so crazy. I felt that all my convictions were being crumbled down, and that nothing was true, and they were just emotions which were just at the level of the mind. They were not my real inner deep need. So, big crisis always. Now we go to retreats and we go sometimes in crisis with ourselves, and maybe what the Master says, maybe the Master himself. Why not? And it's normal. Don't be surprised. There's nothing wrong. It has to be like this. Because on a retreat, we are really revolutionized. We have to go through the darkest part of ourselves and the most luminous part of ourselves. But in order to reach the most luminous part, we have to first go through the most dark part. So that's how it was for me. All the time when I went on retreats with Sanji. Because I developed my convictions. If I had no convictions, it would be very good. If I was totally open to what he said and what he wanted to convey to me, it was very good. But if I had convictions about anything, they would be crumbled down always. Then I had to rebuild something new, a new outlook of life. So that was really very important always. Like once I became convinced that I was fed up with this ashram story. I couldn't take it anymore. In 1992, 93, now I don't remember exactly, I really became so fed up with this ashram story, with being representative of Sanji, giving initiation for him, and being responsible for all these people, because he always told me, you are the responsible person, and you have to set an example for everybody. So I became so fed up being an example for everybody when nobody really cared. And me so busy with this place when nobody really cared. And being in this kind of public role, which I didn't like it anymore. I just wanted to be an individual without any public role. So I thought, I sell this ashram and it's over. I don't care anymore because it has no purpose really. That was my convictions which I developed. So I wrote a very long letter to Sanji. Very detailed. Why this? Why I want to do this? And I sent it to him. He read it and he wrote back saying, he answered about all the aspects of the thing, and he said, but about the ashram, please keep it until we meet next time. Because he knew when we meet next time, this person will be grinned down. And he will change his mind. So I read his answer, and I thought, well, he didn't get the point. He didn't understand what I mean. So I wrote back another letter, and I know he was on tour at the time, and he was going to Canada, and he was going to hold the program in Toronto. So I sent this letter to Toronto, and he had a very short program, like 1 or 2 days, and yet he was given my letter, and he answered back, something which usually he would not do when he was on tour. So he answered back, and in the answer he said, I understand your condition. I understand very well the state you're in. But dear one, this ashram, he said, this ashram is a place where we have met and we have been meditating in the love of the Master. This ashram, it's a very blessed place and it has to go on. And he said, the Master work has to go on there. And you have to keep it going. So, well, this letter changed my mood quite some. So after reading it, I felt like, let's say, 30% of the heaviness of the situation flew away. My attitude changed 30%. Then after some time, 50%. And then I understood, no, it's a trip of my own. I have to go back to normal. And gradually I forgot about those ideas. I changed my mind, and the fact that he said this ashram in this ashram the Master works has to continue, he said. And you had to keep it going. You have to continue. So what to do? At the point either you obey or you disobey. And I was never the disobedient one, so I kept it going. So spirituality is a very long process. You have to go through so many things, ups and downs, mountains and valleys. And you have to keep going, and you have to keep it alive, always intense and very interesting. Otherwise it becomes a dead something. It becomes a belief system. It becomes a religion again. I believe into something. I believe in Sant Mat. Just like I believe in Christianity or I believe in Buddhism, Hinduism. No, this is not spirituality. Spirituality is your own personal experience of reality without any mental makeup, without any, Master Kipal used to say, we all wear glasses with different colors, lenses with different colors, and that's how we see the world. So each one of us has got some glasses with a color on the lenses, and that's how they see the world. But if you take out these lenses, these glasses, then you will see reality for what it is. And what are religions? They are glasses with a special color by which you have to see the world. You believe into something, and then everything has to come into that scheme. I don't want any scheme. I want to see reality as it is, as it comes to me. Not because they say that Jesus, Krishna, Buddha, and all these belief systems. Moses, Muhammad, whatever you want, and their teachings. That was their mentality. That was their teachings. That was the way they realized their truth. That was the way they express it. It's not my way. So each person that realizes truth has to realize truth for his own in his own way, because truth is one, but reveals to each one of us in our own way, always in a different way. That's the beauty of divinity. It's never the same, just like life is never the same. And we keep getting stuck into ideas, doctrines, dogmas, theologies, philosophies. A free man is free of all this. It has always, he has always, she has always new eyes, fresh eyes, by which you see reality, without any schemes. That's how I am. I have no belief system. I tell you, even Sant Mat is not my belief system. To me, it's like this. They call it Sant Mat. I say, maybe Swamiji, who founded somehow this path, had this mental makeup. But then, Baba Jaimal Singh, who was one of his successors, had a different mental makeup. So Swamiji's path became a Jaimal Singh's path. Then Jaimal Singh's path was not quite the same to Baba Sawan Singh. Baba Sawan Singh was quite different. Was different. So he made his Sawan path. Kirpal Singh was not like Baba Sawan Singh. He made Kirpal path. Ajaib Singh was not like Kirpal Singh. No, quite different. Really, quite different. You can't understand how different he was. I know very well how different he was. So he made Ajaib's path. And I tell you, Sirio makes Sirio path. Because that's how I am. I am not like Master Kirpal. I am not like Sanjeev. I come from a different life experience. I wasn't born in India. I've been born in Italy. And I've been born in the way I've been born. And experiencing the things I've been experiencing. So I can be the same. Otherwise I would be a photocopy. People say, well, you know, when the follower of a master changes something in the teachings, they say, oh, he's bad. He's changing the teachings of the master. I say, thanks God he's changing the teachings of the master. Otherwise, what is he? He's not an alive something. He's a dead something. And I've seen very often, especially after Sanji leaving the body, people who have been picking up this role of a guru, they are just photocopies of Sanji, nothing else. They have no originality whatsoever. That means they have not realized their own truth. Otherwise they would be different. They're just repeating like parrots what Sanji used to say. That's why many of, especially the Italians, Sanji's followers, they told me, you are an heretic. You are changing master teachings. I said, yes, okay, good. Very good to be an heretic. But I am myself. So that's movement. That's moving towards your own realization. And your own realization will be just your own. The same to nobody. So I could go on with this song. There are so many beautiful sentences, but I think it's enough what I said this evening. I hope it was inspiring for you, meaningful. If you didn't like it, I'm sorry, but nothing changes. Because I am like this, I'm not going to be different. Can you imagine? I'm 70 years old now, soon 71. Can I change? I didn't change my whole life. I mean, I've been changing all the time. But basically, that's what I am. I understand myself to be a free man, no schemes of whatsoever. Today is like this. Tomorrow we will see. Maybe it will be different. Something new will come up. And I want to see it as it is. I don't want to see it according to my convictions. Just as it appears. Each day it's a new story. Each moment is a new story. Let's be intelligent. But you know, it's not easy to be like this. It's not easy to refuse everything you have been brought up with. I've been brought up as a Catholic. My mother was very Catholic. I mean, she was not indoctrinated, but she was really loving God in that kind of mentality as a Catholic. So she was very influential for me when I was a small boy. And I grew up with that mentality. So it wasn't so easy for me when I was 15 years old, refusing God and that religion completely. It wasn't easy. It was quite a courage. I was really brave. Because in my understanding, there was no logic in that. And I had the courage to go my way, even when I was 14, 15 years old. So, make your own way, realize your own truth. You might take inspiration of associating with me or what I say, my experience, but you will have your own truth. You will have your own way to go. Each one of us. Be brave. Be yourself. Meditate. Realize your own truth.